Hello everyone. Welcome to part 2 of my What If Deku Had a Tree Quirk. Um, if you're wondering why it took me so long to write this part 2, is because a lot of things have been going on, and so I've had no time to do so. So anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into it. 9 years later, we cut back to it into the story when Izuku and Bakugo are now 13. Bakugo is talking with Izuku when the teacher finally enters the classroom with the papers. He does his usual skit. Now, you shall all be taking these papers and filling them out for what you want to be when you grow up. Further. But I see no need. I know that all of you want to be heroes, he says, tossing the papers into the air. All the students, excluding Izuku and Bakugo, just remain there quiet. Who just remained there quiet? Izuku notices that one of them has a wood quirk, and he decides to tug on the dude's wood that he made, saying, "Hey, I wouldn't suggest using your quirk. We all know that I'm the one dude you don't want to be an idiot in front of, especially since you make wood." Right, says the dude with the wood quirk, and he says to everyone to stop using their quirks. Oh, right. Sorry, Udobenda. Now, for all of you wondering why they call him Udobenda, it's quite simple. It's the name that Bakugo gave him, and that made sense to everyone, so they just began calling him that. Thank you, Izuku, the teacher says. Continuing on, it seems that 2 of our students are going to UA. For UA, I mean. They are Izuku and Bakugo, due to them having the best grades in the class. The class would proceed to say that it makes sense. They are friends who are relatively smart in several respects. Eventually, the bullies that Izuku fought in the past, who are their classmates, decide to try and pick on Izuku as payback. One of them says, "You know, Deku, you honestly aren't anything special. You just spooked us back then. And I personally think it's time that we get revenge on you." Izuku rather unwillingly says, "You know, I find it idiotic that you all first off decided to give me that nickname. But on top of that, you are assuming that you are these overpowered super beings that have amazing, extremely strong quirks, when you really just have an egotistical personality that says that you should try to get revenge on a good doer because they stopped you from bullying a little girl years back." As he finishes this statement, he pulls small pieces of wood towards him, forming the gauntlets, boots, and helmet, along with a chest plate underneath his shirt. "But," Izuku says, getting into a fighting stance, "I guess it can't be helped. You were put onto a high horse, and now assume that everyone should bow before you. I guess I will have to knock that out of you, as I can't have you behaving like this. Your move, or are you too scared now?" The bullies get a look of fury and rage, as one of them charges directly at Izuku, activating their quirk. As the bully approaches melee range, Izuku decides to stick to what he said, and just dodges the attack of the bully, and then says, "My turn," as he uppercuts the bully's armpit, and then kicks his shins to make the bully get on their knees, and then says, "You know, for someone who acted like they could take me on, you were rather easy to take out." The other 2 bullies then stare even further enraged, and they say, "That's it!" and they charge towards Izuku. One of the bullies decides to try hitting him in the chest, not realizing that he had a chest plate there, and they injure their own wrist with how they decided to punch him, and backs off. Izuku would look at the final bully with a bone-rattling stare, then punches the bully in the liver, sending him flying. He then says, "Learn that not everything revolves around you, and take this to heart. You cannot tell anyone what to do." Bakugo comes up behind him saying, "Geez, Udobenda, you know, you sure know how to teach people a lesson. Remind me never to tick you off." "Actually don't. I like to do it. It's fun." Ha ha, Kachan. Anyways, now that they're dealt with, what do you say to us going to the arcade and then going to train? I mean, after all, the UA entrance exam is in a few months, so we will need to train ourselves for it. Also, when we are getting ready to go to the exam, remind me to pack a few logs, so that I don't have to go in there just using my fists and legs. Katsuki would nod, then says, "Well then," he takes a step forward, "to the arcade, right? And then our special training for the next 10 months. Right. And then we'll see if I'm qualified enough to get into UA." They both then chuckle and do their signature fist bump, and then say, "For UA!" raising their fists into the air. Later down the line, at least halfway through the 10 months of training, so after 5 months, they decide that they are going to go walk around the city. So they begin walking around the city and are talking to each other, not paying attention to their surroundings, where they decide to pass under an underpass. As they go under the underpass, Izuku, with his innate hearing, which I forgot to mention that he has, hears a manhole opening behind them. He quickly tells Bakugo to turn around as he turns around himself, as they both see the sludge villain climbing out of the manhole. "Darn, I didn't know that freak was in town. Now I gotta find somewhere to hide," the sludge villain would say, as he looks around and then spots Izuku and Bakugo. "Perfect. Now, let's see if I can get one of your bodies," as he jumps towards the two of them. Immediately, Izuku backs away and says to Bakugo, "Hey Bakugo, use your quirk on him." Bakugo says, "Right," as he blasts a rather, he's gotten a lot stronger than he is in canon. So he fires off a blast about a third of the size of the blast that comes out of his gauntlets during the Hero vs. Villains training. This hits the sludge villain directly. But then Bakugo and Izuku are horrified to see that it did nearly nothing to the sludge villain. The sludge villain then laughs and scoffs, saying, "You really think that would do anything to me? I'm made out of purely liquids. I can't be injured by something so insignificant as a blast." Now, saying that, you, the kid who fired off the blast, you seem strong enough to be a worthy skin suit for me, he says as he jumps onto Bakugo, beginning to try and embed himself inside of Bakugo's body. "Don't struggle, it will only make it worse," the sludge villain says, crushing Bakugo and suffocating him. Izuku then proceeds to pull a bunch of pieces of wood, as he then says, out of rage, "Get off my friend!" but as he tosses him away, as he tosses the sludge villain away inside of a wooden ball. Izuku would then proceed to compress the ball down until the sludge villain became unconscious as a small sludge ball. This is when All Might would pop out of the manhole, saying, "I am here? What happened here? Where's the sludge villain? And who are you two?" Bakugo would proceed to cough up a bunch of sludge as he says, "Thanks, Izuku, for getting him off me." Izuku would say, "No problem, Kacchan," as he would then proceed to pull the sludge villain, who is still inside of the wooden ball, to All Might. He would then say to All Might, "I captured the sludge villain inside of this wooden ball. I know that I shouldn't have used my quirk, but it was either that or I would lose my friend right here, right now." All Might would thank Izuku. Bakugo would then realize that it's All Might and would kind of want to get a autograph from All Might, and very heavily convinces Izuku to get the autograph from All Might as well. Izuku finally decides to agree, and so All Might signs Bakugo's right sleeve, and then also signs Izuku's notebook. Eventually, after All Might jumps away, Bakugo and Izuku look at each other. Bakugo's just like, "I still can't believe that we just met the number one hero in person. I mean, that's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, isn't it?" Izuku would reply, "No, not really. I mean, after all, many people see him around. What's more of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity is actually getting him to sign your things. Which I'm a bit happy that you actually convinced me to have him sign it, because that means that I can actually show proof that I got All Might's signature." But anyway, so afterwards, Izuku and Bakugo proceed to walk over to Bakugo's house. To have a little bit of a sleepover, because in this one, Izuku and Bakugo are very good friends. So, as they go over to his house, they notice that the ball in which the sludge villain was contained. So, they see the sludge villain again. But instead of it trying to take hold of Bakugo's body, it instead is trying to take hold of Tenya Ida's body. Tenya Ida was going for a stroll around the area where Bakugo would normally have been captured by the sludge villain. Izuku and Bakugo see this and proceed to try and rush in there. Bakugo, of course, being the more afraid one, because he remembers what it was like to be suffocated inside of that thing. And then Izuku would ask one of the people there, "Why aren't the heroes doing anything?" The person would reply, I don't know. I don't think they can do anything right now. I mean, after all, they've tried for several amounts of time trying to get the villain off of the kid in there. But they can't seem to actually get any sort of grip on him. One of the people in the crowd just asks, "Hey, where's All Might?" Izuku and Bakugo would proceed to begin wondering that. As they look around, Izuku sees someone who looks like All Might, but isn't completely sure that it is him, so he continues looking around. Eventually, Bakugo says to Izuku, "Come on already, Udamenda, we have to go find him. I mean, we have to go help him. We can't just let him die in there." Izuku then says, "Fine. I didn't want to have to use our quirks again in front of heroes on the villain, but I guess we'll have to." As Izuku and Bakugo would proceed to charge in there, the heroes would begin trying to get them to stop going towards them. One of the heroes eventually saying, "Kids, get out of there! This is not a place for you to be. Come on! Don't be stupid! Don't get yourself injured!" Eventually, Izuku and Bakugo manage to get past them and proceed to try and get the sludge villain off of the kid. Then Izuku has the bright idea to surround the kid in a wooden oval to try and pull him out of the sludge villain, which he succeeds to do, as the sludge villain isn't a solid, so it wouldn't get stuck on him. So, tiny bits of the sludge villain would remain inside of the oval, but other than that, Izuku would just quite simply pull Tenya Ida out of the sludge villain. Afterwards, he would then proceed to grab more wood and have it. So he lets the sludge come back to the sludge villain. After the sludge is all back at the sludge villain tries to attack Izuku, in which Izuku would then surround the sludge villain in a massive ball of wood and proceed to do the whole crushing him into a tiny ball thing again. Eventually saying, "This is the last time you're getting out of this." As Izuku would then proceed to take the rest of the wood that was surrounding Tenya Ida and completely surround the sludge villain with a dense ball of wood. Eventually, Izuku would stop with the ball being completely manufactured and very solid and unable to be broken by the sludge villain. He would then collapse to the ground, exhausted. Afterwards, he and Bakugo would then be scolded by the heroes, but also thanked by them for saving the kid. And they would ask Tenya Ida if he was alright, and would praise him for actually being able to survive so long until some kind of help arrived. Shh. Shh. No. In which, eventually, Bakugo and Izuku would just be left alone, because technically they helped the heroes actually save the kid, instead of letting him die inside the sludge villain. Afterwards, Tenya Ida would proceed to come over to Izuku and Bakugo to thank them for saving him from the sludge villain. The duo would then say, it was no problem, besides... And then Izuku would say, besides, Bakugo over here got trapped in that sludge villain once, and I managed to get the sludge villain off him. Still surprised that he got out of All Might's hands, though. I can only imagine what must have happened in order to make that happen. Tenya Ida would introduce himself. And then Izuku would proceed to say, so you're one of the Ida family members? Ida would then say, yes, you've heard of our family? Yes, you're the brother of Ingenium, right? That is correct. I would not have expected you to be able to find that out so easily. You must be a perceptive one, aren't you? Izuku would nod, saying, I'm one of the most intelligent students in my school, and that's why me and Bakugo here are trying to head for UA, because we think that with each other being able to help the other out on anything that we might have trouble with, that we might actually be able to very much so get into UA. Ida would then ask, so, your quirks are... Bakugo would reply, mine's explosions. I produce nitroglycerin-like sweat that I can blow up. And Izuku would say, and I have a mix of drendokinesis and I have a mix of my parents' quirks, which are drendokinesis and tree sprout. Interesting. And then Izuku and Bakugo would then proceed to begin walking away with Ida, as they are all talking about their quirks and what they're planning on doing in order to most likely succeed in the entrance exam for UA. Ida would then say, so, you two are going to be helping each other out during the test, right? Izuku would say, well, yeah, but I'll only help Bakugo I'll only help catch him if he actually needs it. Because knowing him, he's actually about as smart as I am, due to us helping each other during school. Ida would then say, interesting. So you two have known each other for a while then. Bakugo and Izuku would then say, yes, we have known each other since we were children, because we were childhood friends. Sorry about that. Anyway, so in case you couldn't hear what I said, Bakugo, Izuku, and Ida were talking to each other about the UA exam. Anyway, so they all would be readying them. Ida would eventually leave Bakugo and Izuku, saying, I hope to see you during the exams. When Bakugo and Izuku would say, us as well. It was interesting to meet you. As they would both proceed to walk home. Not the time. Not the time. Eventually, as they continue walking home, Bakugo would ask Izuku, hey Izuku, why do you tend to have doubts about if you can get into UA or not? I mean, you've got a pretty strong quirk, you've got me, you are very smart. I'd be surprised if they didn't let you in. It's just, well, I never really had the chance to actually prove that I've never actually had the chance to try and see what it's like inside of the entrance exam. So I'm not sure what I want. So I'm not sure what to expect. I mean, after all, most people who get into UA say that it was pretty scary and hard. But I guess it's just a bit of self-doubt because of how hard it's been to actually get to this point. Anyway, enough about that. So I guess we'll head over to your house now. Bakugo would play. Oh yeah, that's right. We were heading over to my house. Geez, a lot of stuff happened on that. Well, let's get going. I don't want that old hag to get mad at me again. I hate how she hits me whenever I'm late. Well, I guess let's go. Izuku and Bakugo would proceed to walk over to Bakugo's house. Izuku would let Inko know that he's over at Bakugo's house. And Inko would say, "Alright then. I'll see you soon, Izuku." Izuku would put away his phone as he would then proceed to go with Bakugo would say, "Hurry up!" Izuku would reply, "Right, coming," as he would run towards Bakugo. As they finally reach Bakugo's house, Bakugo opens up the door and says, "Old hag, I'm home." Mitsuki would shout from the kitchen, "Where the hell were you, brat?" Bakugo would get a bit ticked off by this, but would just rub it off and say, "I was with Izuku." Mitsuki, "Oh, alright then." Izuku would then proceed to step into the house, I mean. And Bakugo would proceed to walk with Deku up to his room, saying, "You know, every time I see this room, I keep thinking there's something missing, but I've never been able to figure out what it is." "Well, I think I know." "Yeah?" "You're missing all of the good things that would make you happy." "Huh?" "Well, quite simply, you have been not really putting anything." As Bakugo and Izuku finally head up to Bakugo's room, they would proceed to talk about things and would eventually decide to start doing games with each other. This lasted for almost the entire day. But then Izuku would say, "Alright, Kachan, I've got to go home. My mom's expecting to see me again today." Katsuki would reply, "Alright then. See you later, Izuku." We rarely get any time to stay at my house." Izuku would reply with, "Well, to be fair, my parents want to keep a close eye on me in case something bad, so that nothing bad could possibly happen to me. So, I guess it's not really that special that we don't have any time to do anything together much anymore. Anyway, I'll see you soon. I'll see you tomorrow, right, Cat-chan? You better believe it, Udabenda. Izuku would wave as he walks out of Katsuki's room, and then says bye to Miss Mitsuki as he proceeds to go and leave the Bakugo household and begin walking towards his house. And that's where I'm going to be leaving it off. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next part, whenever that is.